Hello and welcome back for Module 5, Lesson 2, which we're talking about outsourcing. So outsourcing might seem like something that's a bit down the track for you, but I think it's really good to touch upon it now because there might be some things that you can outsource either right away or fairly soon after you get started. And outsourcing has really great potential to not only increase the amount of time you have to work on your business or in your business, but also potentially to help you make some extra money. So, what are we going to cover? We're going to talk about why we outsource. We're going to talk about what you could outsource. We're going to talk about who you can outsource to. And we're going to talk about some of the risks of outsourcing. So, some of the reasons why you might like to outsource. Well, the reality of it is that you can't always do it all. I've found that sometimes to try and do it all just results in burnout, and sometimes we have to accept that we need some help, and sometimes we can outsource some of those things to other people. And sometimes outsourcing can be as simple as just outsourcing your childcare for an afternoon to a family member. So another reason why you might outsource is that you might not be the best person for the job. Now, often there are other people who have really good expertise on things, and outsourcing to them can save you a lot of time. I remember when I was setting up my website on my baby business, I had this task that I had been trying to do, and I had spent days trying to get this thing done on my website, trying to set it up, and I just couldn't for the life of me figure it out. I'd been on YouTube and blogs and Googling all the answers and trying all the things and just finding myself getting really, really frustrated, and I hadn't been able to figure it out. And I managed to contact somebody who knew about setting up this particular thing on the website, and I think it took her about an hour. And I think the cost for doing that might have been like $100 or something like that. And I'd wasted days and days of time that I could have spent doing other productive things. And I couldn't believe it when it only cost me about $100 to get it fixed. I was thinking, oh my gosh, why did I not do this 3 days ago? So in that case, I was definitely not the best person for the job. Somebody who knew what they were doing and had the right skills was able to jump in and do that job much more efficiently than I could. So consider that if there's something like that that's getting you stuck, whether you could possibly outsource it to somebody, at least get a quote to find out if it's worth your while to outsource it, because it might not cost as much as you think. It can be worth outsourcing things if there's someone else who can do it for cheaper, or if there's somebody else who can do it cheaper for the time that's available. So for example, say it costs you, I don't know, so say your charge out rate's $100 an hour, and you've got a job that needs to be done around your house, say mowing the lawns, for example, and the mowing contractor charges $80 to do the lawns, and it normally takes 2 hours to do the lawns. Well, then chances are it's actually better off for you to pay the person to come and mow your lawns for 2 hours and pay them $80, and you can work and earn $200. So things like that are worth considering as well, because it's going to ultimately allow you to make more money in your business. So making the most of your time is really important. That in this regard, time definitely is money. Okay, so what can you outsource? There's lots of things that you can outsource. I've said they're almost everything. I've been reluctant to outsource things in the past because of the cost, but as I've said, sometimes it's really worthwhile actually doing that, and it actually would cost you less in the long run because your hourly rate has a value. So if you can work and you're earning more than what you're paying for something to be done, then it can be worthwhile to look at doing that sort of thing. Sometimes you can outsource the things that don't need you. So things, for example, like your admin. So maybe it might be more efficient for you to actually outsource your invoicing or your account reconciliation for Xero and that kind of thing. And, if you can outsource that for less than what you would earn to do so if you again, sort of similar to the lawnmower example. So if you can pay a admin person $40 an hour and you're earning $100 an hour, still you're making money. So it takes that job away from you and allows you to make the most of your time. But also sometimes those kind of things are the things that suck your joy. So the things you don't like to do, if you can get rid of those things, even if it's a task that's part of what you do for your job, again, some of those things you can actually outsource to somebody else. So if you don't enjoy doing them, it might be something that you do temporarily, and then over time you might bring someone in to help you do them. Or another thing you can do is that you can bring somebody in, and so you might be able to hire somebody to do the job for you for a certain hourly rate, and then you can add a premium on top of that. So you might be paying them $30 an hour and you charge it out at $40 an hour. So you can still make some money off those things as well. So some of those things that you might not enjoy doing, you've done the work to bring the work in, so you can then outsource them to somebody else if you can do that appropriately, and then still make a bit of money off doing that as well. So that's another thing you can do too. Childcare can be a really good one to outsource because it's often really quite hard to get stuff done with children around. So if you're able to outsource childcare, for some of the time, I know what we're doing here is to try and allow us more time to work with our children, but we can often have a much higher rate of productivity if we can outsource our children, our childcare for a little bit. So whether we can get a babysitter to come and help around the house so you've got a bit more time to you, whether a partner or another family member like your mum or your dad can take the kids for a bit to give you a bit of relief and allow you to have that little bit of extra productivity that you can have without the kids around. So that can be helpful. I mean, even sometimes it's worth your while having activities, like after school care or even days of daycare to allow you to have a bit of time to work on your business if you find it too hard to do that with the kids around. At least you've still got some flexibility around when you do that. I've mentioned it a few times, but housework and life admin are great things that you can outsource. I think I might have mentioned it before, but I outsource my laundry and it costs me less per week to do that than what 1 hour of my time would cost. So, and it takes me a lot more than 1 hour to process all those loads of washing and fold them up. So that's been the most amazing time saver for me. And it gets rid of a horrible job that I hate doing anyway. So look at doing those kinds of things, outsourcing things where you can like that. Again, you might get a cleaner and all that sort of thing. Outsource, I've mentioned this in the last slide, outsource things that someone else can do better or things that someone else can do for cheaper. So who could you outsource to? So a virtual assistant is the kind of person you could outsource to. And there's lots of different virtual assistants. They might not call themselves a virtual assistant. It could be another freelancer, lots of different names. But if you have a look around online, there's lots of other people like us who are working from home offering their services, and usually someone who can help you virtually. So you might want to track down the right kind of person that you need to help you and outsource the particular job to that person. Again, family and friends can be people who you can outsource to if they're willing to help you. Particularly, I've found with the childcare. Again, with the childcare, sometimes you could do a childcare swap. So you might take somebody else's children for a couple of hours, and they might take your children for a couple of hours another time, so that you can share the load and each gain some time back. Another good option potentially if you have a freelancer friend, you can make the childcare responsibilities work around each other. And then I've put on there again, cleaner, laundry service, childcare, daycare, lots of different places that you can outsource things around the home to that can make your life a lot easier, and again often more cost effective than you doing those things yourself. So what are the risks of outsourcing? Obviously, there's a cost of outsourcing. So if it's a cost that isn't easily covered, then consider that. But again, if you do it in the way that I'm suggesting, so saying that if your hourly rate is $50 an hour and someone else can do it for $30 an hour, then you're still potentially making money there. So weigh up whether it's actually a risk or whether you can cover the costs, or if like me, you can outsource your laundry. You can get many hours of work done. Just bear in mind that you actually have to do the work to make up for the whatever you're paying for. So timing I've put down there as a risk, and the timing of that is just that then obviously you've got to align with the person who is helping you. So if you take on a job relying on someone outsourcing some of it to somebody else, you have to be clear that they're actually are, or that person's actually is going to be able to help you. They have availability. And then the other thing I've put there too is that it's not you. So sometimes with outsourcing, you've got the risk that someone isn't going to do the job as well as you do. So say if I use that example of the thing that you can outsource because you can pay somebody a lower hourly rate and still make some money on it, then the risk is that they might not do the job as well as you do. So you have to find the right person to do the job, or make sure you provide really clear instructions, because if they do the job and then you have to do it again, then obviously that's not saving you time or money. And just something to be aware of, to figure out, what are the right things to outsource. Obviously, if there's things that really require you to do it because it's your style of writing, or your client needs you to be in attendance, then those aren't the right sorts of things to outsource. But it's going to be a lot easier to outsource the laundry and a lot easier to outsource the housework, because you don't need to be the person that does that. I've put in there again, risks are can be disputes, having a dispute with somebody. That's kind of just generally, something that can come up in lots of different areas. But make sure you've got, your arrangement written down properly. You might like to have a contract with your supplier or your helper to make sure you're really clear about who's doing what and what the cost of that's going to be, and those kind of things, to try and minimize disputes. Have it in writing. And then I've put down there just at the end, someone isn't happy. So, I mean, I guess it kind of is linked to that it's not you element. So, if you got someone to do some work for you and your customer wasn't happy with the standard of that, then there's that risk of it not really working out and it actually costing you more in the long run. Ultimately, I guess you can just redo the job and absorb the cost, but just something to take into consideration. But if you put the right processes in place, then you should be able to avoid problems there. Okay, so action station. I would like you to spend some time brainstorming some tasks that you could outsource. They don't need to be business related, so it could be those life admin tasks that we've talked about. They just get in the way of getting the work done. You could reach out to somebody who could help you. So you might like to find a virtual assistant to help you get some jobs done, or maybe try and hunt down somebody who you could subcontract some work to and make a little bit of money as you're doing that as well. And if you don't have the money to pay for help at the moment, then see if there's a way you can get some help for free. So like I said, maybe you could exchange services with somebody. So you could swap childcare time to help each other out. Or maybe you could see if there's a family member who can mind your children, so you can get a little bit of child-free time to get some work done. And usually I put there is a way to get some help. So do a bit of a brainstorm, figure out what ways you can think of that you can get help, and see if there are some things that you can outsource. Okay, so moving on, next we're going to talk about overcoming some challenges in Module 5, Lesson 3.